Hi, I'm Anna, and welcome to the Somport Deep Cut. Today, we're heading into Germany, a region that tends to overwhelm diploma students, not because the wines are difficult, but because everything around them feels layered and contradictory. The laws, the labels, the parallel systems, the slopes, the sweetness levels that may or may not be sweet. It's a lot. But Germany becomes simple once you understand the logic behind it. That's what we're doing today. We're peeling back the noise until you can see the structure underneath. Let's start with the landscape, because with Germany, place truly is everything. Germany sits on the very edge of where viticulture is viable. At this latitude, ripening is not guaranteed. So every factor slope, aspect, soil, proximity to rivers, warmth stored in slate becomes a tool for survival. When you look at the Mosel, those almost impossibly steep vineyards are not there for drama. They are there because the only way Riesling will ripen this far north is if you literally angle the vines toward the sun. And when those dark slate soils absorb heat during the day and radiate it back at night, they aren't just adding minerality, they are protecting acidity and allowing Riesling to reach that exquisite balance between ripeness and tension. The story changes as you move. Rheingau slopes along the rare east to west section of the Rhine gives more structure and depth. Nahe feels like the perfect middle child, balanced, pure, precise, thanks to its mix of volcanic, slate, and sandstone soils. Pfalz and Baden are Germany's warm hands, producing fuller, riper wines and increasingly powerful Pinot Noir. Our clinging to slate canyons makes some of the most elegant Spätburgunder in Europe, despite being one of the coldest red growing regions in the world. Once you see how light, heat, slope, soil, and risk shape everything, the complexity stops feeling abstract. Germany is not confusing, it's responsive. Every style comes from its environment. And that brings us to the grapes. Riesling is the anchor. And the reason it works so well here is because it's a variety that thrives on narrow margins. Late budding protects it from spring frost. Late ripening means it can soak up those long German autumns. High acidity keeps it fresh whether the wine is bone dry or lusciously sweet. The variety's transparency means you can taste the slate of Mosel, the power of Rheingau, the clarity of Nahe, and the generosity of Pfalz. But Germany is not only Riesling. Spätburgunder, Pinot Noir, has become a second identity. Warmer seasons, better clonal work, and careful canopy management have pushed quality dramatically upward. In Baden, you get smoky, muscular styles on volcanic soils. In Ahr, you get delicacy, red berry purity, and spice. Silvana remains the quiet traditional voice in Franken, and the German crossings, Müller-Thurgau, Scherub, Körner, tell the story of a country that for many years needed reliability above all else. Now let's talk about winemaking, because this is where Germany bridges two worlds. It has some of the most advanced research institutes on earth, and you see that in the precision of stainless steel ferments, in aroma protection, in the careful handling of must and juice. But at the same time, top producers lean into old casks, long lees contact, spontaneous fermentation, and very minimal intervention. For sweet wines, there are essentially two paths: the commercial path, which uses Sus reserve to balance sweetness, and the traditional path, where fermentation is arrested to capture natural sugar. Iconic wines like ice wine and TBA demand perfect conditions, intact berries, freezing temperatures, and immense labor. Riesling handles that pressure like almost no other grape. For reds, especially Spätburgunder, German winemaking has become almost Burgundian. Gentle extraction, whole bunch for perfume, and thoughtful oak choices that avoid smothering the fruit. Every choice is about managing acidity and aromatics, keeping definition while shaping texture. And then the part everyone fears, the laws and labels. German wine classification is really three systems sitting next to each other. The first is the old 1971 system, which organizes wines by how ripe the grapes were at harvest. Cabinet, Spätlese, Auslese, Beerenauslese, Ice Wine, Trockenbeerenauslese. It tells you nothing about sweetness, only must wait. That's why a Spätlese can be bone dry and a cabinet can be off dry or sweet. This is where so much confusion begins. Then you have the VDP, a private association of top producers who simply didn't feel the law reflected true quality. They built a pyramid based on origin instead of must wait. Estate level, village level, premier site, and Grand Cru site. From those top sites came the famous dry wines called Grossgewach, GG, with strict rules about yields, varieties, and release dates. Sweet wines from these sites still use the Prädikat terms, but only when naturally sweet, no enrichment allowed. The VDP system is not law, but it is incredibly influential. And finally, Germany updated its national wine law in 2021 to reflect a similar origin based quality hierarchy: region, then a smaller area, then village, then single vineyard, with new legal terms for top dry wines. So now you have a legal origin pyramid and a private origin pyramid running side by side. They overlap, but they're not the same. If you can explain that clearly, you already are ahead of most candidates. Once you understand these three layers, must wait, VDP, and the 2021 origin law, all the label noise begins to fall away. Now let's travel the country. Mosel gives you Rieslings with feather light texture, piercing acidity, and a sense of delicacy that no other region can quite match. It's labor intensive, erosion prone, and breathtakingly beautiful. Rheingau gives you structure, ripeness, and a long tradition of dry Riesling, with botrytis making its presence felt in certain years. It also produces some impressive Pinot Noir. Rheinhessen is vast and varied, from fertile flats producing large volumes to the dramatic Roterhang, where red slate creates smoky, powerful Rieslings now among the country's most sought after. Nahe is the region many students underestimate. It offers clarity and elegance with a perfect blend of minerality and fruit. Pfalz is warm and generous, producing full bodied Rieslings and increasingly serious Pinot Noir. Baden, the sunniest region, leans heavily into Burgunder varieties: Grauburgunder, Weissburgunder, and Pinot Noir with real depth. And then tiny, steep, fragile, a red wine jewel shaped by slate and heartbreak. Germany's business reality ties all of this together. Steep slopes mean high labor cost. Mechanization is limited. Cooperatives play an important role in regions like Baden and Württemberg, and many now focus on quality rather than volume. At the same time, Germany's domestic market has shifted strongly toward dry wines. Export volume has fallen, but export value has risen because fewer bulk wines are leaving the country and more premium wines are. So, how did I study for Germany for D3? I started with environment. latitude, slope, rivers, soil, and how each shapes ripeness, alcohol, acidity, and labor. Then I mastered the classification systems, not by memorizing terminology, but by understanding why each system exists and what problem it tried to solve. And finally, you learn the key regional expressions: why Mosel tastes the way it does, why Rheingau feels different, why Pfalz and Baden produce fuller wines. Germany rewards reasoning. If you can link environment to process to style to quality, your answers will naturally stand out. That's the heart of this region: clarity, structure, and confidence, even in a place that looks confusing from the outside. As always, if you'd like a written companion guide with examples and extended notes, you can find this as a companion article in this episode. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next one.